Hey, everybody, this is Jerry Jaffe, the world's most highly educated stand up comedian. So smart, I'm using new software that I do not understand whatsoever.
Tell us you're old without telling us you're old.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm here with two of my best friends in not only the comedy world, but in the whole wide world of organic carbon based life forms on the planet Earth that I'm aware of. And I'm going to introduce them to you. You can see their beautiful faces if you're watching the live stream already. And we're going to start talking comedy. I'm going to say a couple of quick things about myself, a shameless product placement. This whole podcast started 4 or 5 years ago because I started working on a book about satire. And because of that project, I started interviewing comedians, and that sounded interesting to me. So, what the F, I started sharing it.
Yeah.
And so that's got called The Comical Heathen. And in 2024, the book actually came out, people. You can now buy this book. This book is a real object you can own.
That's a
It's a beautiful
hardcover,
Christmas
man.
present. It's a hardcover. That's Jesse Pimpinella's voice you hear. It is hardcover. You can get an e-book. And if it sells enough copies in 18 months, they'll do a soft cover, which I actually think the soft cover uh, of this book, Religious Satire in the Era of New Atheism, would probably sell well because it's about three things that people are kind of into right now: comedy, religion, and 9/11. So there's not a lot of books that cover all three of those bases, my friends.
They're
I might be a
trending
little
all
too
over
smart
X right now. That's
for
what
my
it
own
is.
good. I certainly should be. And there must be haters out there who are having book burning somewhere. Come on, buy up this book and burn it for me. As long as you buy it, I don't care. And other things you can buy is this beautiful coffee mug with our logo on it. I started a spread shop. So on that website, you can order any kind of merch you want with the logo on it. So you want a book bag, coffee mug, a t-shirt, you decide what you want, and I get the money. So go check that out.
Always good. Always a good
All right,
deal,
my
right
friends. I was watching the documentary I Am Comic. It's from a few years ago, but you two have already seen it. You may not remember it. But
Mhm.
there's a scene, it's just like a 1 minute scene where a comedian walks into a comedy club and starts pointing at what he would change if he could make the perfect comedy club.
Mhm.
You know, this should be like this and this should be like this. And that's kind of interesting to me. You know, people who do it, the comedians, what do you think is kind of an ideal space? Let me introduce today's guest, and we'll get into that and some other comedy topics. You already heard, and I can see the beautiful face of Jesse Pimpinella out of Columbus.
Mhm.
And also joining us on today's podcast is storyteller, actor, comedian, and one of my best friends, Mark Riccadonna. How are you, Mark?
I'm good. I'm
Good. I like to
actually
hear that.
it was so funny that I saw that you posted about the comedy club because I'm playing one of the comedy clubs this weekend right now that I actually
Hmm.
really love. And
Oh, excellent.
it was one of these things where I didn't play there forever because I always played the Funny Bone and it was always
Hmm.
at the Virginia Beach Funny Bone. And a bunch of people told me about this club, which is Kazi's. I don't
Okay.
know if you guys have ever played there, but it is ideal for comedy. Like I played there and I didn't care about anything like money wise or any of that kind of stuff because I go, this is how comedy's supposed to be. It's a tight, small room, low
Mhm.
Hmm.
ceilings. You
Yep.
can see everybody in the room. Everything's like ideal for stand up. And
Hmm.
so when you posted that, I was like, I'm actually on my way to this club that I always put on my calendar because of it reminds me how much I love nightclub style comedy.
Yeah. There's just something about it, like when you're in that style of a room where you feel right at home. You feel like you start calling comedy an art once again. You know, before you're just like, oh, it's a job, it's a job. But when you're in that room, you just something just mystical happens where you
Yeah.
just
Sure.
I can't explain it because I was in a room like that a couple weeks ago. They have a new one, so a little one in Columbus. Like I do the Funny Bone out here, but it's called hashtag Comedy Club. Small seater, less than
Hmm.
100 seats, low ceilings, dark, and it just feels like this secret that no one should know, but we know about, and everybody knows
Yeah.
about it. And it's magical.
You
Well,
can't
let's do a quick.
capture that too on camera because
No,
that's the other thing is everybody's putting because of this, everybody's putting
Mhm.
comedy on social media, and that's
Yeah.
not the appeal to me at all for
No.
live comedy.
Hmm.
I don't even
That's a
like watching specials.
well, that's another
That's
whole
so funny
topic
you're
I wanted
talking
to
about
bring
that.
up today as well. But let's introduce you two goofballs to anyone to my 12 regular listeners. Mark, how long you been doing comedy?
20, 23 years, 24 years, somewhere in that
What? Did you
ballpark.
start when you were 5? Look at that beautiful face. Come on.
Yeah, this
You had that
baby
facial
face.
hair when you were 5, didn't you?
I did. I actually look the exact same from when I was a child as I do now. I actually just talked to my wife about this. I go, it's weird. I've always looked 40, and now I'm 40. I'm like, everybody, like everybody's like, oh, I feel so old now. And can you believe we're
Mhm.
40 years old? And I'm like, no, I've kind of been this my whole life. Like,
And I know you have other writing and acting credits. Tell people about one or two of your favorite credits.
actually, currently, I'm shooting a series. Hopefully, it'll be on a Netflix or Hulu, but it got
Mhm.
funded, so they're shooting the whole season, and
Oh,
it's called
congratulations.
Unsuited. And
Oh.
I play a I'm the bad luck charm in a group of guys who play poker full time. Every time I show up, everything goes wrong. So it's my favorite thing right now. And
Oh,
that's why I have this
congratulations.
mustache. I'm a mechanic slash, which is hilarious, a mechanic slash poker player, which I don't know anything about fixing cars, and I
Mhm.
barely know how to shuffle cards.
Right.
But I
But you're an
actually told
actor,
him,
so you can act like you know how to fix
yeah,
cars and
well,
how to
I am
shuffle cars.
acting.
Yes.
I
I was thinking about of all things while you were saying about shuffling cards, Jackie Chan, because he's would talk about how you can tell if action heroes don't know what they're doing if there's a lot of edits
Yep.
because they can just film like one little thing at a time and then edit it together
yeah.
to look cool. They could do that while you're shuffling cards. They could just like do one shot and then one shot and one
Well,
shot and edit it together so it
auditioned
looks like
for it.
you. What's that?
I auditioned for it, and funny enough, I was in doing stand up. I was in Maine, and I was doing stand up, and they had a Zoom audition, so it's like this, and I
Mhm.
had this beautiful theater behind me, the Algonquin Theater up in by Kennebunkport, Maine, and
Mm.
I'm doing the audition. It goes really well. I'm chatting with the casting director and the producers, and it's like, this is great.
Love it.
And I hang up, and the one producer calls me and he goes, hey, like, we're probably going to go with you, but like, we need to know your availability and blah, blah, blah. And we're going through all this
Mhm.
stuff. And I didn't tell them I didn't know how to shuffle cards, or that I kept all this information to myself, that I
Yeah.
didn't know how to do any of that stuff until we
Right.
signed the contract. And as soon as I signed the contract, I'm like, oh, by the way, I don't know how to play poker at all. Like, I've never played poker before. And they're like, oh, we thought you were like a big poker player. I'm like, nope.
And that's why it's acting.
You know,
They actually
I once
hired a
saw
guy to teach me.
What?
Teach me
excellent.
how to play. So I was like, it was one of those moments where all of a sudden you go, hey, this ain't small time. Like, this is legit. Like, they got somebody
Yeah,
teaching
hell
me how to
yeah.
do this.
Like they brought in a grandmaster to teach in X-Men, the two Picard and his name's not Picard, of course. And the Magneto how to play
Tell
chess.
us you're a nerd without telling us you're a nerd. I made an
How did you
X-Men
say
reference.
Magneto again? Could you say Magneto one more time for me?
Magneto. I know.
Somehow you made it sound like a nacho
Dude,
dish.
Yeah.
I was
love
like,
you
order
so
a
much.
Because when I said Magneto a moment ago, in the middle of it, my brain forgot how to say Magneto. So I went like Magneto. Like,
That's what you. Yeah.
You made a Star
but
Trek reference inside an X-Men reference, which is like the nerdiverse. Just like,
yes, of course. Yes. Um, Jesse and I have something in common in 2024. We both released little. I don't say little. I'll use little for as an adjective for mine. We both released comedy specials out into the world.
Mhm.
Jesse, what was yours called, and where can
Uh,
people see it?
Mine's called Spooky. It's currently airing on Roku TV, and now a littler streamer called Fossum. And then right now it's free on YouTube. It's been doing really good. The album got #1 on Amazon debut weekend, so I'm very
Nice.
proud of that. So
Of
thanks
course.
for everybody who's listened
Congratulations.
to that and checked it out.
Right.
It means a lot to me.
Sure. I released a half-hour free special onto YouTube, and it's called Funny Stop Jerry. And
Funny stuff.
I know.
And it was
last,
filmed
I
at
featured
the Improv.
at the Improv, yeah. A couple times a year, I'll feature at the Funny Stop in Akron, Cuyahoga Falls, and the year before, it's like 18 months ago, I was featuring there with Dan Brown headlining, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to film this. I have a friend who's a cinematographer. He did all the cinematography and editing for me. And the day we were filming, I'm going to get real serious, everybody, is literally the day that Pete died.
Yeah.
I remember we were texting.
Yes. And me and Dan were performing. There are a couple other people did too. I don't mean to exclude anybody, but Dan and I were performing with this going on. And my friend is filming it on 3 cameras, and he doesn't know what's going on at all. And he is kind of like hyper focused. And it just turned into like a uniquely surreal moment. And it was supposed to be like just a fun, hey, I'll just film this and call it Funny Stop Jerry. Isn't that cute?
Yeah.
And so when I released it, I did add at the end a little like memoriam for Pete where I shared some thoughts and stories about him. And I suspect anybody who watched it actually just fast forwarded to that part, went, yeah, okay, Jerry. Like, I don't, but at any rate, that is available on YouTube as well for free if anyone is in the mood to get the gist of my act. All right. Thank you for sharing that, guys. Let's get back on our #1 topic. When I put that post, which is comedy clubs and how to make them gooder, when I put that post up, probably 20 or 30 people responded, but about half the people who responded like mentioned things. I'm just going to call it kind of like generic. I don't know how to put it. Like they might say like cool vibes or friendly staff or stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, I was saying back to people, oh, so you mean my bedroom? Like, because what they were saying was so generic, it could just be any room where you feel good.
Yeah.
So I mean, is that kind of like is that kind of vibe? How about that? Is like having the right vibe part of having a positive comedy club, or is that too generic?
I ran a comedy club from 2002 in New York City, Stand Up New York, from like 2002 to like 2005 or 6, 7, that area. And we used to have staff meetings all the time that it was like, hey, the show starts when people walk in the door. Like you can't, this isn't a restaurant and then there happens to be comedy. Like when somebody walks in, the person at the door, you got to be smiling. You got to be excited to see them. You got to be, and that's part of the whole energy of the club. And that's what separates us from the other clubs. Everybody that worked at the club, we were all friends. So we all had fun and enjoyed it. And I think it spilled off energy-wise onto the audience because comics would constantly say like, man, there's just something about this club when we walk in. It's like always in the mood to do stand-up when I come here. And I think it's a real thing because then when I started actually doing stand-up, I realized when you go into a place and like the staff's miserable and the staff doesn't want to be there or they have a contempt, like I feel like there are clubs out there, and I won't name names, but there are clubs that I think they hate the comedians. They like they hate the fact that they have to have comedians in there. And it's like it you feel it. You can feel it as an audience member, as a comedian. And then as a comedian, you're not giving your best performance because you're almost being defensive instead of open. And the audience feels that something's off. They might not know what it is and they might not be able to put their finger on it, but the subconsciouses are all talking and they realize that something's not right or something doesn't feel right. And they just don't get into it and they don't let go. And that's when you have those like hostile audiences where even you go, they were good, but I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
Mm.
Like they were, yeah,
You
they
know,
laughed at all the jokes, but
you
I
said
never felt connected.
you said something I want to put like in the headline for our 12 regular listeners, which is I'm glad you didn't necessarily mention a specific club because this is not a diss track. Like I'm not trying to get hits by trashing on specific clubs.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
nowhere in the world is perfect, and there might even be places that are good. But our experience being in 100 comedy clubs makes us sensitive to details
Yeah.
that maybe even a comedy club owner or manager might not be aware of because they only know their version.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll tell you a dumbass example, but it's something I've had to learn to let go of, which is as a theater kid. And, Mark Riccadonna, I've directed over 100 plays on 3 continents.
Nice.
And I used to walk into comedy clubs, like probably my first 10 years of comedy, and look at the lights and see what was wrong with them.
Mhm.
And I probably 5 times, this is when I was still a noob, went up to like managers and said, "Hey, I have friends who are lighting designers. I could get someone in here to fix these lights for you." And they just looked at me like I was an asshole. Like I was just like, like, "Oh, don't worry about it. It's fine," or something.
Yeah.
But like it's not common for the lights to be correct.
Yeah. I think comedy
Jesse, you're
is,
going to talk next, but I'm going to give one more
yeah,
stupid
yeah.
factoid. The Who was the first band to go on tour with their own lighting designer.
Yeah, I
Because when
didn't
they
know
were
that.
a small band, they would go into like clubs and theaters around England, and other bands would just use the lights that were up there.
Mhm.
But they would actually have a lighting designer design the lights for every venue they were in. So that's kind of like
Wow.
I wish could bring a lighting designer with me. Jesse, you were going to say something when I brought
I
up
was just gonna
lights.
say we live in a time where I think bare minimums aren't going to bring people out to clubs, bring people out to shows and stuff like that. Because I mean, you got to understand that the audience is making such a grand commitment to be at the show. Babysitters, they're tired from coming from work, all that stuff. There are so many other options. So when they come to a show, they're committing to the night, and I
Mhm.
think like I said, just to echo what Mark said, they pick up vibes. I mean, comedy is all feelings. It's all
Mhm.
the emotions. It's all the how
Mhm.
the vibe of the room is, and if anything is off, and they're going to remember that. They're going to remember wasn't that great. I didn't have a good time. I just kind of wanted to. I was just thinking about going home. You know what I mean? But like to
Yeah.
create that
Mhm.
moment where they're locked in and present, and all the details are great. Because I've been to clubs where staff is laughing with the people at the table, joking with them, and you can
Mhm.
already hear laughter before the show,
Yeah.
which
And you go,
which
tonight's going to be awesome.
yeah, as a comic, that. That's like, oh, this is it. This is a good show. Versus the one where you hear the forks scraping the dish and you're like, oh my God, this is
There's no
great.
music
Well,
in the showroom
No
before the
music, no
show.
nothing.
It's like you're at a
if you can hear
funeral.
chewing, that's never a good sign.
Yeah. But it's like it's bringing up the room and the host
What
bringing
are
it up just right and everything.
besides good vibes and good lighting? What are some other like I don't know details, architecture, furniture
I
that
think
you think makes for a good
Hard
show?
surfaces. You gotta
hard
have hard
services.
surfaces. The laughter needs to bounce off the walls and the low
So you're
ceiling.
talking about the acoustics of the walls and ceilings
You had a black
matter. Yeah,
cement box. Put
Yeah.
yeah.
a stage
Well,
on
that's
one
why
end.
most theaters and auditoriums have like sound control padding on their walls.
Yeah.
I there might be some really big A-list type theater comedy venues, but most comedy clubs do not have
Any
sound
kind of
padding,
acoustic.
Yeah.
acoustic
And,
design.
and here's the thing, clubs don't usually have to go that far, but like setting up the room, like how the tables are set up, where the stage
Mhm.
is, it matters. It
All right,
matters.
my young friend, you brought up a good one, of course, which is setting up the tables.
Yeah.
How would you like the table? What do you think is the optimal table arrangement, or what's the most
The
common
tables just
table
have to
mistake?
feel like they're gravitating towards the stage. Like the tables just can't be anywhere. Like the tables have to feel like if the stage is
Mhm.
here, then then everything is gravitating towards it. Because the way the room is set up and the way it feels, and people
Mhm.
will sit and they'll have this. It's kind of like when you walk into an elevator. When you walk into an elevator, everybody does the exact same thing. They turn around and they stare at the door because that's the norm. That's the way the room is designed. With a club, put the stage in this area where it gravitates attention. You know, not putting it against a weird wall at a weird angle, maybe in the corner of a room where the room cuts off like that, or what maybe, you know, it depends. But you want to make it a focal point of the room, because
Mark,
if you don't
what do you
make
think about
the focal point of the room, then what's the point of having a show if the show is not the focal point?
Yeah.
Mark, what do you think about the tables?
I agree. And it should always be, because there's nothing worse than when you see the person in the audience kind of doing this.
Oh my God, I hate that.
They watch the whole show tilted, and it's like, man, you're going to have a headache. The other thing is you ever done a gig and like the restroom door or the bar is right next to the stage?
My God, yes.
And you're like,
that was on my list.
like, dude, I don't need to see everybody that goes to the bathroom, and then you feel like you're supposed to say something, but you know the person just wants to go to the bathroom, or they're just trying to get a drink, and it's like you're being a dick for saying something. And it's like, but you're also taking you see the audience go like this, they're watching you, and then all of a sudden they go, and it's like, take that out of the equation. Like,
it's totally Jesse's focal point. Like everything in the showroom should be pointing at the stage. But if the restroom is by the stage, then all the energy goes like this every time somebody goes in or out of the restroom.
Yeah.
And it is all about energy.
You know,
it's all about the energy and interactive with the audience. And, you know, I always say when I host that the more energy you give to the stage, the more the performer wants to perform. But it's true. And if the energy is getting diced up with, like, you know, I mean, something as little as like you can hear like the blender of the mixed drinks go off. So all of a sudden you have these people while you're telling a story, and all of a sudden they or the bartender who has to like show off their martini skill. So it's like, and it's like all of a sudden all the energy leaves because they're going, oh, somebody's getting a martini. Like, forget about my story.
I've been in at least 2 venues where next to the stage was the actual, and I mean like just like you're describing, right adjacent to the stage was the door in and out, just to the venue.
Oh yeah, I've been in those.
And then one of those, it was like a summer show, so every time the door opened, the room is flooded with daylight. Right, because even though it was 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, there was still daylight out.
Yeah,
I'll give you.
So it was like 2 things. It was the entrance and exit, and this huge, not even a flash of light, just the room getting flooded with light every 10 minutes because somebody went in or out.
Yeah,
one of the weirdest experiences I've ever had on stage is behind. They were thought like, wouldn't it be cool if you see city life behind the comedian performing? Let's have him perform in front of a window. And they did that. And what happened was, as I was performing, I'm literally 2 minutes into my set, cars crash into each other, and 2 guys get out and start beating the hell out of each other. Listen, I don't care. Nothing. I was watching. I was like, screw my set. I was like, I gotta watch it. I want to see who wins. This guy's slamming the other guy's head off the hood. We're just like, what happened? But it's just, again.
Well,
the stage wasn't the focal point. The city was the focal point. The city was what was more important.
It's more of a open mic problem, so it might be tangential, really. But
they put curtains up
whenever you're
immediately.
Well, whenever you're in a bar with the TVs on, of course, that's a thing.
Well, I was going to say, there's things that you can't believe you have to think about, but then you show up to a gig, and all of a sudden you're like, yeah, you have to turn the jukebox off during a comedy show. Like, you have to turn the music off. There should not be TVs on. I know everybody wants to know the Yankee score. Well, then they shouldn't be at the goddamn comedy show.
Yeah.
Turn it off.
Yeah. There's I was in a bar where they had Skinamax on, and there was literally softcore porn going on.
It happened to me too.
Next to the stage, like, you know, people in bed with boobs and feet sticking out. So.
I love how I love how you just
I'm kind of funny.
Things. You're like boobs and feet.
Yes,
that's very interesting.
Those are the words that popped out of.
Now we know
this has suddenly turned into therapy for me.
Yeah. You're just saying a bunch of interesting keywords that are making us learn more about you.
So I want the algorithm to put this out to as many people as possible. So
I would have said boobs and asses, but he's like boobs and
what?
feet.
And I did, yeah. And hey, what else? I mean, negative or positive? What other feature? Like both of you mentioned, black. Should comedy club walls be black? Is that the way it should be, or do you like
I
them
think
when they're
dark.
decorated?
Well,
Sometimes they have posters and pictures and headshots.
so like Stand Up New York, where the club I was at, it looked like a battleship. Everything was like a dull gray metal.
Mhm.
It was that what I don't know what you call it, the metal that has like
It's like the girders. I know what
tread.
you call it, it's like rivets.
Yeah, there's like and the lights were even like a battleship. Like it was like the everything was as basic as possible because you didn't want to distract from what this was on stage. So there was
Mhm.
nothing. I mean, I even kind of thought it was weird because the back wall was all mirror, but they did that so the room looked bigger.
Yeah.
It was a small room, but the whole
Did they pay you double?
we sold 120 seats, but it feels like 240.
So we're gonna pay you for 110.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, but it was
yeah. But
everything was
so
about.
did you like that? Did you like
I
that?
loved
Does it
it,
work?
and they redid the club recently,
Mhm.
and they made it have like a Velvet Vegas vibe, if that makes sense. And
Mhm.
it's gorgeous. It's really gorgeous. But
I've seen
my
videos of
personal
people in that
opinion
club. It
is,
looks beautiful.
Mhm.
Just sorry,
but
me and cut you off.
oh
I
yeah,
just want to agree with you. It's beautiful.
but it's my personal opinion is you're not at a comedy club to see a beautiful room. I liked
Okay.
the other way. The
Right.
seats were just bare metal seats. It was gray, and then
Right.
the logo was on the stage behind you. It wasn't fancy, it wasn't anything. Everybody paid attention to what was going on stage, and I think that's what it is. Like even like I love Gotham Comedy Club so much, and I love the
Mhm.
Mazzillis so much, but like the stage to me, the background, and the same like Governors, which is another club I absolutely love. I got married at Governors. That's how much I love that club. But the actual stage is like so busy, and it's like it doesn't need to be. Just that's why it was always like a brick wall in the '80s. You know,
Yep.
it was like
Well,
keep it
that was
as
going to be my
dull as
next
possible.
question. What do you think about the backdrop? The brick
And
wall is the stereotype, but I'm sure you've
yeah,
seen 100 other types besides the entire city being behind you. What other types of what is like a effective backdrop?
plain, plain and simple.
Yep.
You
Okay.
don't need anything other than let the comic shine. Let the comic
Right.
shine. That's it. You don't need good lighting onto the person that is on
Mhm.
stage. You don't even need, I mean, I get it why you put your logo up there, especially now with social media. So it's like if
Mhm.
somebody's videotaping it, you constantly see the name of the club behind the person. So I
Mhm.
get why you would put like a logo, but simple, like just simple. Because a lot of these clubs, and especially it was a thing, I feel like it felt very 90s that it would be like they'd make these intricate backdrops, and they
Mhm.
would like it was almost like a rap album where it's like there's so much going on you don't even pay attention to the
Yeah.
artist. And it's
Mhm.
like I get it because you want to put money into something, or you want to like we need
Mhm.
to like dress this up, let's make it gorgeous, but plain, very plain and
Yeah.
simple
Yeah, I
works.
mean, Hilarities in Cleveland, unless it's changed very recently, and I was there in 2024, so I think this is still correct. They just have a beautiful but simple curtain.
Yeah,
Yep.
It's not.
make it cool
Yeah.
backlighting,
Yes.
backdrop lighting.
Yep.
Like that's all you need. Like simple is better. Like it's just
Hmm.
we want to pay attention to the person performing, not you should never be in a comedy club and going, this is so gorgeous.
Yeah. Yeah.
You should be looking at the comic going, he's hilarious or she's hilarious.
Um, I, I've seen a lot of chatter lately. It might just be the people I know, so it might be a little bit of like a repetitive echo chamber. Comedians seem to be talking about, or maybe a few comedians, um, the topic of punching down.
Mhm.
And it seemed the debate seems to center around the idea of free speech, and that as a comedian you should be able to say whatever you want, maybe comma, as long as it's funny.
I was going to
Did,
say,
Yeah.
I agree with
Oh,
Anthony Jeselnik on every
okay,
topic of this, of
okay,
say whatever
let's hear
you
it.
want. You can make fun of
Mhm.
anything you want, but it better
Mhm.
be funny. The payoff better work.
Yeah.
Okay.
And here's the thing is people will go, well, how do you know if it's going to work? That's why you're the comic and the person in the audience isn't. Anybody can write
Right.
shit on Facebook. Now you're
Right.
performing in a live venue. It's your job to make it funny.
Mhm.
So it's
Mhm.
if you want to talk politics, politics can be funny. I know it's like a hot button for a lot of people where I don't want to hear politics. If it's funny, who cares? You want to talk
Mhm.
punch up, punch down, punch left, right, anything,
Mhm.
just be funny. Because if it's not funny, then you got to pay the consequence
Yep.
of whatever that would be.
Jesse, you
I
go
couldn't
before me
agree.
because I want to hear.
I'm
You
sorry,
agree?
what?
You want to add anything, or because I'm about to
Honestly,
like
he
be
said
devil's
everything I was
advocate
going
in
to
a
say. I
second?
couldn't agree more
Okay.
with that. I think sometimes we've gotten away from, is it funny? Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's like I've seen comedians talk about, well, it's about the message, and I'm like, well, no, it's not.
Then become
It's
a
not
philosopher.
message
Write a
club.
book.
Well, I mean, there's messages in philosophy, but
But
let's
if
be
you're
clear though.
putting,
We're talking about like
Stand-up comedy.
yeah, we're talking
stand-up
about like,
comedy. Yes,
here's
but
the
we're
thing,
also
if
when we're
you're
talking
putting the
about punching
message,
down,
I'll
we're
wait.
talking about specifically making jokes about people who
That's what I'm talking
conceptually
about.
can't
Intent.
defend themselves.
If your intent
You know,
is simply not to be funny, but just to attack certain people, and that's it, then you're not being
right?
funny. Then yeah, I mean, just to
All
echo
right.
what Mark said. I mean,
No.
it's got to be funny. It's got to be funny no
All
matter
right,
what.
my friends, and bear in mind I'm about to be devil's advocate, but I'm just not going to let you two off the hook.
Okay.
Tell me your reaction to this. And I'm going extreme, like I'm going way out there, but get ready for an extreme but real example. During the Third Reich, there were comedians who became rich and famous telling Jew jokes. Now, I'm
Mhm.
a Jewish person. In
Yes.
21st century America, if you have a funny joke about Jewish people, I probably will not personally be offended.
Mhm.
But I do feel like in Nazi Germany in the 30s and 40s, a comedian telling Jew jokes was punching down,
Mhm.
but they were getting laughs and making money. So I feel like there's like another component, which is something like, why are
There's
you telling that joke?
there's a
Like
clear
you still have to be
ulterior motive.
responsible.
There's a clear
Right.
ulterior motive. I mean, you're living in the Third Reich, which is something known for genocide, and you're
Right.
promoting an idea that is acceptable through your jokes. I mean, that's a different ballpark. Yeah, I mean, we're like,
I don't
if
know
you,
if genocide was well known in the 30s by the Germans. They didn't all know, but I know what you mean. There was a culture and an
there was a
atmosphere,
culture of this
anti-Semitism,
They were
and
ethnic
racism.
cleansing.
yeah.
Yes.
So I mean, like you're riding off of something. You're not just doing a joke because it's
Sure.
funny. You're like, okay, this is what everybody's talking about, this hateful thing. I'm going to do jokes to ride off it, and that's how I'm going to be
But
successful.
if a contemporary American comedian does a bunch of jokes about people with Down syndrome and people laugh, is that really the only litmus test? I mean,
Well, here's the thing.
right,
What is the background to the
Yeah.
joke?
That's the thing.
Right.
Like Shane Gillis does jokes about people with Down syndrome, and it's very funny because it's endearing because he's talking about his uncle who has it, and it's you laugh at it and you know whatever because you know it's coming from a good place. It's coming from he loves his uncle, and he's actually
Right.
so like. You shouldn't tell jokes about Down syndrome. Well, there's an example of where it works. Now, if you just went on and just made fun of somebody with Down syndrome to be mean,
Yeah.
well, that's a different story altogether.
Yes,
So-
but what if people laughed at that?
You're talking about the difference between the comedian's intent and the audience. We're talking about intent.
No, but I mean, if a person
look,
goes up and makes jokes making fun of people with
whatever
Down
you say
syndrome,
to the audience, here's the thing: as a comic, all we
Yeah.
control is what we say. and then however the audience takes it is how they take it. So we have no. So basically, if we're saying something and they're taking it
I
a different,
semi disagree with that,
well, how?
and because you're still half of the conversation.
So
I'll give you an example. Here's
give
a
me an
real life example. For a while, I was doing jokes about being Jewish, and I had friends locally in Cleveland, including other comedians, who were like, "That's hilarious. I've never heard about those parts of Jewish culture. It's really unique. You should keep doing that, Jerry." And so, and of course, I will say, being Jewish, I was not in any way consciously attempting to be anti-Semitic. I was talking about my life.
Yeah.
But after maybe a year of doing these jokes, every time people laughed, I started wondering why they were laughing.
Yeah. Are they laughing
so
with you or at you kind of vibe?
Correct. So I eventually edited all those jokes out. And again, you might call it an abundance of caution, because as you say, Jesse, I can't control how other people take material. But I felt like I still had a responsibility to control my half of the conversation.
Which is fine. I mean, that is something you have because you saw that, okay,
Right.
there's some ulterior motive I don't want to be complacent in, which is there's this thing in society that is okay with belittling and something. And you acknowledge that. Like, that's fine. That's great. The thing about like protected classes and all that stuff, like, is the overprotection. Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's the point where you're protecting people who don't want your protection. That's when I think it's insulting. That could be very demeaning to a class because you're just saying, hey, you're so weak and defenseless that I will not make a joke about you because you're weak and that's why you're special. That's why you're special. I think that's more backhanded because, like, there's a lot of times people want to be seen. They want to be seen. So if you want to tell a joke that makes someone seen in a positive manner, that's great.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. And like I said, just how Shane Gillis was talking, he was being very endearing about his uncle, but also he has bits about the Special Olympics. Like, he was talking about, he makes a joke about, like, how, can you imagine the first time someone suggested that idea? And it's a great joke. He's like, imagine the Olympics, but, you know what I mean? And like, it's a hilarious joke that there is a real moment of, oh yeah, that must have been an awkward moment, you know, but he's not attacking it, saying like how dumb this is, how stupid this is. I watch this when I'm high because I'm, you know, he's not like he's not attacking it on an ad hominem level.
Right. So, but this is where I think the difference is between. Oh, well, Mark, you go first.
There's a double-edged sword because it's is something ever off limits? No. Anything should be fair game.
Yes.
Can you do it with taste and tact? That's the artist.
Right.
That's what makes you special as a comedian, as an artist, to be able to talk about a topic that you shouldn't talk about and make it funny. Now, the problem is there are these people that do stand up who go, well, I'm just going to bring up a shocking topic and say something outrageous because it'll get me attention, but it's not funny and it's not written to be funny. It's not written to be, it's basically just hate speech or anger.
Yes.
And that is where it becomes that. But how do you define that? How do you tell somebody that it's like, you just got to be better at what you do?
And that's where I think there's kind of like two different topics. Maybe they overlap, like one of those big Venn diagrams. But I don't think topic choice is synonymous with punching down. I think the punching down is how you treat the topic.
Yes.
That makes total sense to me.
Yes.
But it's like, you can't tell somebody like, well, don't make jokes about cancer. It's not funny, because there's 100 examples of people who tell their story or do whatever and make it funny and enlightened, you know, where all of a sudden you understand it or whatever. But if you take, you know, an idiot who says something horrible about cancer and like is mean, then that's so you're right. It's the differences of what the topic is and who the person is, I think, is what makes it different.
Let me there's definitely at least one more comedy question I wanted to ask you, Mark, and you as well, Jesse, of course. Jesse and I were on the phone yesterday, and this came up for like a minute, and then I made him stop so that we could talk to you about it.
Oh,
So we've like had a little bit of a conversation already. I'm gonna tell you like the general topic, Mark, and 12 listeners at home, and then I'm gonna give you like a question to go with the general topic. The general topic is in a show with a host, a feature, and a headliner. What is the role of the feature in the show? And to make it just a little bit more of a specific question, should the feature be like serving the headliner, or should the feature be serving themselves? If you see the difference
I
on
know it,
like
I get it.
okay.
I it's a hard question because
Mhm.
the world's changing so much because of things like TikTok stars and
Mhm.
Instagram stars that
Mhm.
sometimes the headliners aren't necessarily the funniest person on the show.
Right.
But it also goes back in the old days that sometimes the headliners are just basically to sell tickets. You know, they're a
Mhm.
TV celebrity and they might not, they're worried about their sitcom. So they were
Mhm.
working on their sitcom, not on their act. So the feature is the one who's hungry and wants a sitcom. So the feature comes out, and it's not that they're trying to blow you off the stage, the headliner off the
Mhm.
stage, but they're in fighting form. They're training for this. The
Mhm.
headliner became lazy because not lazy because they're doing something else. They're
Mhm.
worried about their sitcom or their TV career, or now it's like these Instagram people that are selling tickets. They're not necessarily
Mhm.
worried about being stage savvy and a killer on stage, where the
Mhm.
feature act is usually somebody who is in their prime, who is
Mhm.
ready to pounce, they're ready to make it. So they
Mhm.
come out and they might blow the headliner off the stage. I mean,
Mhm.
to me, in the universe, the feature is the best spot because you have
Okay.
an MC who's trying to set the table. Because
Mhm.
as the host, the job is to set the table for the show. The feature just has to kill for a half hour. That's their only job. The headliner
Mhm.
has to sell tickets
Yep.
and has to keep everybody happy and make sure that they come back. They're trying to sell the tickets and doing all the other stuff. The feature
Mhm.
just shows up and has to be funny. So to
Okay.
me, the feature's the best job.
Right.
But I think it's not the feature has to do what they're doing. They have to just kill, and that's it. The headliner has to be able to follow it. Like,
Mhm.
I'm sorry if you can't follow the feature, but
Mhm.
there's also tricks and there's things you can do to throw the headliner under the bus, you know, to
Right.
like, and if you're doing that stuff, well, then you're just a dick.
Yeah.
You know, that you
Jesse, what?
can do
Oh.
if the headliner is like somebody who does a lot of crowd work and you go up and you don't normally do crowd work and all of a sudden you just start doing crowd work because you want to wear them out, like you're
Mhm.
kind of screwing the headliner. Or
Mhm.
like hit all their topics. Oh, he does a joke about this, this, and this. I'll do jokes about this, this, and this. So like it can go that way, but I think in if we're saying everything is done by the rules or everybody is a good-hearted
Mhm.
person, the feature's job's to kill. Just go up and kill. That's it.
Jesse, what do you think?
I mean, yeah, featuring. I mean, your job is to just kill, keep the audience moving and going, and then hand it
Mhm.
off to the headliner. And it depends on the headliner, like in specific times, because like, is this a headliner who sold tickets, or is this the guy who's just going last in the show? You know what I mean? Which we've been in those situations before, where you know, and in that case, like sometimes I've seen situations where maybe someone is featuring for a pro that featuring for a headliner, maybe the person that's featuring was their mentor, you know what I mean? And
Mhm.
obviously they don't want to blow the headliner out of the water, because that that I mean, it's like Yoda coming in and being like, check this, Luke, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like, that's not in good faith, which is what Mark was talking about. I think there is in certain degrees, it's like you want the show to do this so that everybody has a good time. And if you try to
Mm-hmm.
disrupt that and hurt that, then obviously you're being a dick. But bottom line, I mean, be as funny as hell. Be as funny as hell as the feature, because you have an audience that's hungry for comedy. You don't you want to show off your best work, and also it shows to the club owner like, hey, this guy is hungry. Maybe I need to move him up sooner. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think as long as you don't go in as a feature thinking I'm gonna fuck the headliner over,
Yeah.
then
Mm-hmm.
just do what you do. Do what you do.
Yeah. Do your
As soon as
job.
that thought comes in, then
Well,
you're.
I think I think, and you've both alluded to this, so I'll just put it a different way. I think there can be extenuating circumstances, such as if the headliner works clean and he wants the feature to work clean,
Yeah.
then that's something that you have to like accept as a condition of like taking the
Yeah.
booking almost.
Well,
But
I hate when comics say a club owner can't tell me what to do. Yes, they can. They
Yeah.
write the check.
yes,
You can easily not take the gig. So, like,
Yeah.
that's a perfect example. This weekend, I'm working. I don't know if you guys know Sonia King.
Mm-hmm. No.
Her and I, we
No.
could switch easily. I could be the feature this weekend, and she could headline. She's hilarious,
Yeah.
and I get nervous when I'm watching her because she's killing every time. And I love working with her because it makes me work harder.
Yeah.
But like, we
Right.
could switch tonight, and there would be zero complaints. It's just I literally traveled further, so like that's the thing. But then you have the gigs where you're opening for like a celebrity,
Mhm.
like where the headliner's a celebrity, and then there's like the feature, and sometimes headliners sometimes bring their own features because they get burnt on things like that, where it's like, hey, I
Mhm.
work clean, so I don't want
Mhm.
I don't want a filthy act be fun. Like, I don't necessarily like use the word like I work clean, but I'm
Mhm.
kind of known to do cleaner comedy. Like, I can be squeaky clean,
Mhm.
but like I like when it's not billed as a clean show, but it is a clean show. And then at the
Mhm.
end, people go like, I can't believe it. None of you cursed, or none of you like said anything weird. But also like last night the show was like completely clean, and then when I swore, I said a couple different things, but it was like appropriately in the joke, where it
Yeah.
was like
Mhm.
it had weight and meaning, because they didn't hear an hour and a half of fuck
Yeah.
shit and all that stuff. So then when I
Right.
actually said, and then this fucking guy, they was like, whoa.
Right.
Yeah.
So besides, let's just say a couple of things you've brought up. Let's say we've heard like if some things you might have to do like be clean if that's what the headliner wants, because it makes the whole show go on that trajectory. Like you don't want to disrupt the trajectory. And also if there's a celebrity or well-known opener, a headliner that could have some demands on you as the feature. How about we assume none of that's in play? You're just trying to do your best set. Like you're going to go out there for 30 minutes and you want to kill, but you want to be political. Like you do 10 minutes of Trump jokes or 10 minutes of abortion jokes, and they may or may not be hilarious, but it's always like a little bit of a risk, right? Like in one room they could kill, in another room it might be,
Well, that's walking the tightrope, and that's why you're a professional and the people in the audience aren't.
right, right. Sure, but I'm just talking about the feature versus not versus, because it's not the
Yeah,
feature,
no, I know.
and then now the headliner's coming, so the headliner has to follow a person who just did 10 minutes of Trump or abortion jokes. Should the feature be worried about that?
It depends. I think it all depends on your headliner.
Yeah.
If you're working with somebody who's really, but also again, if you're working with, say somebody like a Stephen Wright, like he doesn't talk about politics at all. Like, he doesn't do anything like that. But if you go up and do that, then he takes the stage, he sets his own table, and you're in his universe. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So it's kind of it. I get why somebody might want somebody clean, but like as a headliner, I don't think I would ever tell a comic what kind of material they can or can't do. Meaning like, hey man, don't talk about this. I
Right.
don't, they shouldn't. I mean, everything we're talking about it's like you could easily find examples to go in another direction.
Yeah.
So everything we're talking about is very circumstantial. In a perfect world,
Right.
yeah, I think you should respect the closer and maybe you don't rock the boat, or maybe you do.
Mm.
I mean, like,
Mhm.
I know when I worked in San Antonio, there's this comedian Jay Whitecotton, and
Mhm.
I generally don't like political comedy before I go on, just because it divides the room.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
he was so good at it.
Right.
That it was like, ah, this is funny. Like, just
Right.
be funny is like the bottom line, I think, in a lot of the cases.
Mm.
Um,
Right. Well, I'm really basically just looking for career advice here because I'm trying to bring more satire into my show because
just
that's what my brand is. But
yeah,
and I've
just
started doing
kill it.
it, but yeah, just that's
That's
well, I was talking to another headliner who was giving me good advice, but I don't want to say who, even though I'm a big fan. I just don't want to put words in somebody else's mouth. And they were actually saying something similar to the just kill. Like they were telling me I had said, "Oh, well, as a feature, I want to help the headliner succeed." And they said, "No, no, 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 no. It's the host's job to set the show. It's your job to be as funny as possible. And
yeah,
if you're funnier than the headliner, that's how you start headlining because people will start to
yeah,
see, oh, we can't put people after that person."
yeah. Well, so it's funny we're talking about all this. I directed a play.
Okay.
This is
Welcome to
probably
my
eight
world.
years ago, and it was called The Boom. And in the play, there's a guy who is his first time featuring on the road, but he had a video go viral. So all of a sudden he got really popular. And he was
Nice.
opening for like an old school 80s road guy who had, like,
Hmm.
a shimmer of fame, but nothing, he's just
Hmm.
working the road, and he's working with him. And the play takes place in the condo before the first show, and then act two is after the second. They come home
Hmm.
from the show, and then in the morning, and the manager basically has to come and tell this guy who's been doing comedy 35, 40 years, you're gonna open tomorrow, and we're letting the young buck is gonna headline, and the whole interaction that goes on between that. And it's a real thing, because
Hmm.
sometimes, these guys, and they don't write new material, and they start to slowly fade, and then
Hmm.
you have all these young hungry people. And that's the scenario when you go into a situation of, when you're working with somebody who not necessarily is headlining because they're selling tickets, they're headlining because they just put time in. They have to
Right.
stay sharp, and they have to reinvent themselves, and they have to work
Hmm.
hard. And sometimes you work with these people, and there might be a situation where they go, hey, we might have to flip you, or next time you come in, we're going to have to headline you because this person can't follow you. It's
Hmm.
unfortunate, but that's job opportunity. Like,
Right.
Yeah. And
not everybody can be a CEO. You know what I mean? There's
Right.
people who have to do the other work. And
Right.
there's something you said earlier that I really liked that you said. It was like the fighter. You know what I mean? Like you're always staying hungry, you're always staying sharp, you're always constantly going at it. And there's this sense of like when you get to the top, there's a certain you kind of lay back a little bit.
yeah,
You're not
people are
keeping
coming for your title, though.
yeah, it reminds me of Rocky 3 essentially. Like just the best way to compare it, like how he was like, you're civilized, Rock. You know what I mean? He's like doing the gym while he's doing the PR stuff, while like Clever T is just like out there, a couple of Clever Lang, you know what I mean? But he's like
Yeah,
out there in the dirty gym, just working, trying to. And I think that's for me very synonymous with comedy. Like I've noticed, like some of the people I look to, and they fade after a while because it's like they're not staying sharp. They're not writing new material. They're barely going out. They're just, and you could tell, and you could see the drop. And there's a certain, I think, atrophy with comedy if you don't use it, if you don't work it out a while.
yeah,
Like raw talent can take you so far, but without the hard work and the dedication and
Hmm.
the energy behind it,
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's that whole
Yeah.
documentary of Comedian with Jerry Seinfeld.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole premise of it, that it was like, hey man, he was working on his TV show and he kind of quit being a comedian.
Yeah.
And the premise of the show was like he has to go back, and unfortunately celebrity only gives you so much
Hmm.
leeway, because funny's funny. And
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. Like, so then the premise of the show is that, you know, Orny Adams was like the young, hungry, up and coming who would do anything to get to the top. And Seinfeld was the fat, lazy lion who just came off of being
Yeah.
the king of the jungle. And it was like, shit, I got to go out and hunt again.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. It just makes me go like, okay, yeah, no, I have to stay at it. I got to keep writing. I got to keep performing. I hit an open mic this week just to work on myself, just to do something. I hit any stage time this week. I got to go do it just because
yeah,
that's part of the game. You know, I mean, yeah, pay gigs or pay gigs, but it's like at the same time, like I want to challenge myself. And I think that's in comedy what we always want to do. Is we want to challenge ourselves. We always want to break the mold and try to hit the next level for ourselves, whatever that would be.
Jesse, I thought about you this week because of something. We'll make this our last topic. Did anyone else see it? Kind of circulated on social media, this New York Times article on comedy about how much time comedians have to spend managing their social media, basically takes them away from writing jokes and practicing and what they're supposed to be, like the craft of what they're supposed to be doing.
well, it's
Now,
the
New York
it's all about
Times
the
article tried to make it sound like it was a crisis. So it seemed a little bit like an exaggeration, but is it? I don't know. You two tell me. Is this a problem for comedy?
Well, how funny is it that being a comedian, that there's a crisis? Like, you're playing pretend for a living.
Yeah.
We can relax on
Complaining
the
about
importance
stuff.
of us.
Yeah, right.
We can
Airplane
relax on the
food
fake
and-
importance of what we do for a living. I think comedy's important, and it's a social thing that needs to be about, but like, it's not that important.
Yeah.
We're comics.
But do you think doing social media affects your craft, or negatively affects your craft?
I think it's affected the whole business, and in a negative way. Because, you know, it's I can't remember who it was. It was Mr. Saturday Night, Billy Crystal's character, when he said that your living room funny. Social media is allowing living room funny people to become stars, and it's different. It's not the same. There's you know, you can play pretend with your kids. That doesn't mean you're a great actor. Put that guy who can play with his kids on a Broadway stage. And that's essentially what social media is. And it's making people who actually, this is the whole thing. When social media first came out and everybody's like, dude, you got to get on Instagram, you got to get followers, you got to get on TikTok, you get followers. And I go, no, the people who are doing that want what I have, like what I'm already doing. They want to play comedy clubs. Why am I going to go do that?
That is such an interesting perspective.
Why am I going to go do social media when I'm already playing comedy clubs every week? Like, I do this as a living. Why should I do that? And then I saw all these people that were doing their social media and not working on their act pass me. They went, oh, I'm having a harder time getting booked because the guy who was doing TikTok dances that I was kind of laughing behind their back, going like, can you believe that? How pathetic, how stupid. They passed by me and I'm like, oh shit, how do I do the dance? Hold on, I gotta now figure it out.
Well, let me ask you guys a
I
question,
had to
unless
eat
it's
my
too
own
personal.
words, basically. But
In like a week, how much time do you spend doing social media activities, like posting videos or I don't know, whatever it is you do, dancing on TikTok?
Well, I'm not. I don't have a great social media thing. Like, I don't. I did a ton of podcasting because I love.
This week, this is it right here. This is Mark Riccadano's 1 hour of social media is happening
but
right now in real time.
I fell in love with doing radio and stuff like that
Mm,
when I'd go on the road. And I used to joke around that I was like the only comedian who loved doing the publicity. When they were like, "Hey, tomorrow morning we got to go do radio," I was like, "Oh yeah!" And then everybody else was like, "You like doing this?" Like, I do. I enjoy radio. So then when
mhm.
podcasting became a thing, I was like all about it and I enjoyed it. But so basically I just have a thing where I clip stuff from the podcast and I put it on. So I'm staying relevant on social media. But I'll
Okay.
take one day a month and just clip 1,000 clips and then program it so they go up. And so
Mhm.
I don't have to think about it. Because
So basically,
I hate social media. And it's not I'm not because I'm better than it or whatever. I don't get it. Like I mean I get it, but I also like it doesn't inspire me. It doesn't make me
mhm,
excited. It's like I'm only doing this so I can do this, the thing I'm already doing with more people. So
mhm.
I feel like it's like I'm doing side shit so I can do my thing that I'm already doing, but at a higher level. So I'm not taking away from anybody who did do the social media
Right.
thing. The people who passed me, good for them. Like, good for
Mhm.
them. Like, awesome. I didn't see it coming. I was like, I'm already doing this. Like, I'm already doing stand up. Why am I going to try to, you know
Mhm.
what I mean? It's like when you're headlining, you don't go back and do open mics because you don't learn from it. You know, it's like,
Well,
so why am I going to do
right.
social media? And I was wrong.
Well, Jesse is significantly younger than you or me, Mark.
Yes.
So Jesse probably does more social media than either of us. Jesse, how many hours a week or month do you put into your
How much
social
time
media?
do you put on the MySpace?
Yes.
Go on, Lynn. I'll talk. In 1 week's time, I probably put in 5 hours of work.
Okay.
And I
But
hate it. Don't get me wrong. I
are you still
absolutely,
doing your daily clips?
yep. On
I only ask
YouTube.
because I used to get them all the time, and now I don't see them that often. So
Okay. Well, I
you must have
changed some
fallen off
things
my
up. I
algorithm.
changed some things up.
Okay.
So I'll tell
Okay.
you what I was doing before, then I'll tell you what I'm doing now. So before I used to do 3 YouTube videos, shorts a day, and then one on Instagram daily, one on TikTok daily, one on Facebook daily. And
Hmm.
then I'm also experimenting with new social medias, which again, I hate so much. I
Right.
hate it all.
Hmm.
Um, but again, just doing it because, like, hey, that's what you're having. It's the side quest you have to do
It's
in order
become
to
the
beat,
job.
yeah, in order to
Hmm.
beat the main game. You know what I mean? So,
Hmm.
and it takes a lot of time. Like, I have to look for different videos to look what's trending, what topics are trending, what is this, what is
Hmm.
that. Who,
It's a full-time job.
it's a full time job, and I hate it. So that actually caused me
But
to
I'm
fall
gonna
out of love with comedy.
right. I'm gonna. But I'm gonna ask you, Jesse, and this is as your friend, so I'm just like poking the bear a little bit.
Yeah,
Are you really seeing benefits to your comedy career doing this?
yes and no.
Of course
Yeah,
you'd
that's
say
the
that.
thing. That's why I changed things up because I want to focus on the good part. So, for example, I got rid of TikTok. I'm not on TikTok. I have it. Why? Because I'm like, not seeing a benefit. I've been doing this for 2 years. Haven't seen one single benefit. Hasn't put a ticket. Hasn't bought me a ticket to a comedy club. It does anything. So I'm done with that. Instagram, I see. Some videos I get few million views on certain videos, and I can put my special in the comment section, and that'll generate some views. I'm like, all right, so there we go. There's some views. So I'm gonna stick with Instagram. Facebook's dying in a sense. It doesn't have video. They're not Instagram because Instagram is pushing their videos into Facebook. So I'm like, why do I do Facebook anymore? So I'm gonna get rid of
Hmm.
Facebook, but I'm gonna post shows and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And then basically I'm only on Instagram and YouTube right now. That is it. I'm just focusing on these two things because I'm seeing a better result with those and
Yeah.
people
And I'm
recognizing
going to
me.
just say, so this is what I heard. The tangible result I heard was getting more views on your comedy special.
Yes, getting more views for my comedy special, which helps because when you try to get into a club and they're like, oh, because
Mhm.
clubs nowadays they're looking at views now. They're looking at things like I was at the
Are they?
Columbus Comedy.
Mhm.
Okay, so I
Go
was at
ahead.
the Columbus Comedy Festival, and they invited a ton of bookers
Hmm.
from comedy clubs, A-list comedy clubs, and literally this is their benchmark. Do you have 50,000 views? Nope. Come back when you got that. Do you
So I'm
got
just
you are 50,000 followers? Do you have
Oh.
that? No. Come back when you got that.
on which platform, or did they say?
Any.
Okay.
They
And
want
you're
to see that.
saying, I don't want to sound skeptical, but
No,
you're
no,
saying
just
that
be
you
skeptical.
were told this by bookers at this event.
No, of the club owners, not the bookers of the event. Of the
No,
so okay, so
but the club owners who attended the event,
yes,
that someone literally said that number to you.
yes,
Okay, interesting.
yep.
Are they checking behind your back, or are you showing them when you send your, avails?
Sending with avails.
So in your avails it says, and on Instagram I have 22,000 followers or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
here's what's funny about what you just said, though, to me.
No, please laugh.
It's because I'm old. We're of a different generation. We appeal to different people. Facebook, to me, is where I get the most play. I actually can sell tickets off of Facebook, but Instagram is the one I like. It's the most user friendly, but I feel like I get nothing out of Instagram. Like I get no play out of Instagram. I just started doing TikTok a little while ago, and I'm getting a ton of views.
Oh,
Yeah.
And people are randomly following me off of the little clips. So it's funny because of our age difference, and I'm not at all denying what you're saying.
No.
But because of our age difference, when you're like, Facebook's dying, I'm like, it's the only one I'm doing well on.
Yeah. No. What I mean, so I should take that back because I still sell tickets on Facebook. So I should take that back entirely. I maybe misspoke on that because I think you just have to find. You have to find the platforms that work for you, where your niche is, where you're selling. TikTok's working for you. I'm freaking jealous of you, Mark, because I wish that worked for me. I'm doing it. I'm cutting it off because I felt like I spent too much time on social media and not on my craft. I saw a dip in my act recently, and I didn't like it. And I actually, in the last 3 days, I did. I was New Year's at the Funny Bone, then Hashtag Comedy Club, then the Nest Theater back to back in Columbus, and I feel rejuvenated. I feel like, okay, I actually love doing comedy again. I love the craft. I love the jokes. I love doing this. This is the part that got me to hate this. I'm trying to simplify things for two reasons. Number one, just so I can direct my audience more to one space rather than multiple spaces. And number two, so I don't focus too much time, kind of a screen detox. So I don't spend too much time on all these social medias and not have a life. Because how can I write about my life on a stage if I don't have a life?
That used to be the topic in the early 2000s was when somebody would come in and audition for the club, we'd immediately go, this person needs a life.
Yeah.
Like, because they put all their focus and energy on being a comedian and they didn't have a life on the outside, that then they wrote about the same 5 subjects. It was like, oh, you're going to talk about traffic or airports, you're going to talk about smoking weed, you're going to talk about masturbation, you're going to talk about whatever. These are the 5 topics of people who don't have lives. They put their whole lives onto being a comedian, and that's all they focused on. And then you'd go, who are the successful ones? Oh, the person who's talking about their marriage, talking about their children, talking about their, whatever it is, talking about taking care of their parents, talking about that's relatable to the average person who's sitting in the club. Because the average person sitting in the club, yes, have probably went to airports, but they're not extensively knowledgeable about the Denver airport compared to the Arizona airport. And it's like, so they're listening to this guy going like, okay, that's cute. But then all of a sudden, even somebody like Louis C.K., who's like a hardcore road comic, he'd go up and start talking about his marriage and his daughter. And this is, this was back then. And people would instantly connect to him because they're like, yeah, I have daughters. Oh my God, yeah, I'm married. My wife does that. That's crazy. And it's like, Andrew Kennedy was one of the first comics to me that kind of pointed that out, that it's like, because I told him, I go, I just love what you do. Like, I love your style. And he goes, I just paint a picture. I'm just telling you about my life.
Yeah.
And that's what people find interesting. And it always stuck with me. It's like, no, just paint the picture. Just paint the picture.
No, I like that. Yeah. And that's, I was going to say,
Jesse, go ahead. Have a word.
I was gonna say I agree, and yeah, that's why, like I said, with the social media, I'm trying, like I'm changing up the. I'm not trying to be everywhere and have the Jesse Show every single place, but I'm just trying to come up with a few little portals where people can get to know me, and I can try to cultivate followers so that certain clubs will look at me, and take an interest in me. Because and this isn't just coming from bookers. This is coming from actual stand-up comics with the 100,000, the 200,000 views that told me this. So I mean, this is coming from both sides of the arena, and that's what they're looking for, because they want to know, can you put asses in seats? That's the biggest thing they want right now.
Which to me is an issue, because it's not our. I guess it is now, but it's our job to be artists. It should be the club's job to get people in and to get people to know they have great comics coming in. It's the same as I mean, even now, I do these short films and different things like that, and it's like they're like it's all about the marketing, it's all about and it's like, that's not my job. My job is to direct the best film I can.
It's
the
bare minimum that I talked about at the beginning of this podcast. Like, there's this threat of bare minimum. Like, okay, now that the nature is that they have to be good at social marketing, we don't have to be anymore. Now it's on them. And if they don't put asses in seats, we can blame them. That's not us.
We're lowering the bar, and we're becoming more mediocre, because it's about, hey, you have 1 million followers. I don't care that your act is garbage, or I don't care that you're not working on your act. It's you have 1 million followers. Well, yeah, because my act isn't that good because I'm working 6 hours a day on my social media.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, then why are you here? Go work on your social media.
I watched somebody, I had to open for somebody, it was a headliner, who got a laugh. Literally, at one point, me and my friend pulled out stopwatches. We got bored. Every 4 to 5 minutes, there was a laugh. Not like a big roaring laugh, just and we were bored. It was just rough.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Cleveland Interesting Club.
And it was just tough to watch.
Not to be confused with the Cleveland Mildly Interesting Club.
and it punished the audience. And I think eventually what's going to happen is a little more of these acts are going to be booked. They're going to bore the audience, and because audiences will stay fans of them, but then be like, yeah, I saw them once. It's out of my system. There's nothing new. And then there's going to be this, I'm hoping for this unexpected dip in ticket sales where everybody's like, wait, they have the thousands.
That's already happened.
What's going on?
That's already happened.
You think, oh, thank God. Thank you, Lord.
Yes, but that happening to Act X, and again, I don't wish anyone ill. I hope everybody becomes a bit
I'm
by the end of this podcast.
Ill, but I'm just like,
but that person, when they dip, will be replaced by a different dip. They're not going to be replaced by
but
you audiences possibly Mark.
Audiences, I think comedy club audiences are starting to get savvy on the idea that it's like, I don't think going to see this person just because I like them on here doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be a great performer. Now, I don't know the right answer. I'm not trying to claim that that this is going to be the new thing or whatever, but I'm noticing clubs are struggling more and more, and they're losing their regular audiences, that people that are coming out for comedy. Like, I'm coming out for comedy night. I'm not coming out because Jesse's here.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm coming out to see comedy.
Yes.
Those people are not coming out anymore. So the base audience of, like, you go to a club and they go, no matter who's here, we're going to sell 100 tickets. Now, if we bring in a B-level guy, we can probably sell 200 tickets. We bring in an A-level guy, we'll sell 300 tickets. That 100 is disappearing. Okay. So now they're really leaning on the acts to be like, can you get people in the club?
Yeah.
Can you get people in the club? And I've seen people with amazing credits and big followings and whatever, and they show up to clubs and nobody's in the like, cancel shows or do whatever. And it's like, yeah, but they have this huge following. And it's like, yeah, but you're leaning on them. They have 1 million followers. That doesn't mean the 1 million followers are in Cleveland.
Yeah, exactly.
So now you're depending on them getting their 1 million people to come to your club, instead of you being a club and going, well, we know we got 100 people coming because we consistently put on good shows. Can you generate some more interest to get people in? They're putting it all on them. And I think it's starting to happen where, clubs aren't getting the numbers without doing anything.
Someone said this one time, to echo what you're saying. They're like, people should not be coming to a restaurant because that one chef works there one time a week and he makes the best food. That food should be consistent throughout the whole week. In other words, we should be going to that restaurant for the food, not for the chef. We should be going there for the comedy, not just because they have that one comedian once a week.
All right, you two beautiful people. We're going to inch towards a wrap up. So first of all, let me just ask you, we talked about 4 or 5 different comedy topics, including comedy clubs themselves. What are your final thoughts for the day on comedy or comedy related issues?
I just, for any comedians watching, just be funny and work on your act. That's the bottom line. Is that's job security. If you can go in and kill for an hour, you'll constantly work. All the social media stuff, I don't know what I watched people pass me by because I didn't jump on it. I'm not trying to be the old man, get off my lawn. Do what you need to do, but the bottom line is if you want job security, just kill. Because you can have 1 million followers, and if you don't kill when you're on stage, what's the point?
Yeah.
Jesse, anything you want to add?
I would say,
comedy clubs, I love you. Book me.
I would just say, comics, we're going to be in a situation where we have to evolve. We have to evolve, but I think make sure we don't lose a piece of ourselves that make us comics. That's the biggest thing, because it doesn't matter how good you, as Mark mentioned, how good you get at this. If you can't do the thing that you wanted to go out to do, which is make people laugh on stage, then everything falls apart. I'd say find a good schedule during the week. Figure out, I'm going to do this much with social media and all that stuff, and then when the time limit is up, stop. Worry about your life. Worry about your act, and I think you'll get a much better version of you.
Well, what about thank you, gentlemen. How about before we sign off, anybody got any interesting gigs or events coming up? What's on the menu? What's on the schedule?
Funny enough, you mentioned the funny stuff. I'm there Valentine's weekend. So Jerry, if you're fans, the 12 of them want to come and bring a significant other, that means I'll bring in 24 people, which means I'm a draw.
There you go. Some of them, some might be polygamists. You might get 36. You never know.
Bisexual Mormons. We might end up with.
Come on. Polyamory for the win. Jesse, any gigs or anything else coming up? Or you want to remind us about your special?
Yeah, just watch all my specials. They're on YouTube, Roku, and all that. Hot Mess and Spooky. And then I'll be at the Funny Bone this Tuesday, Crestline, Ohio, the 18th. And then Barboursville, West Virginia, February 1st.
All right, excellent. All right, and I'm here to, I do have some gigs in the area coming up, but what you really need to do is buy yourself a copy of Religious Satire in the Era of New Atheism by Jerry C. Jaffe, and available wherever you buy books, especially online. All right. So thank you very much, gentlemen. It just remains for me to say, it may be your dogma, but it's my karma, and I'm all about spreading the love. Thank you, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
With a lot of fun.
I had a lot to talk with everybody here.